Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Simon, and it's been a long time. I'm going to share with you why that is because I've been working on a very unique top secret project that is not going to be top secret after today. But today's topic is how to judge the career of an influencer from the horoscope. Now, this comes from the course that we did on judging a career in the horoscope. And if you haven't got that already, it is, we got a lot of great feedback. It's 20 lessons and it's stuff that you've never seen before. Stuff that includes things like pro formas for government versus private sector, independence versus dependence. That is, are you an entrepreneurial type, or do you work better in an office in a corporation? Are you better in a white collar job or a blue collar job? That is, trades or professions, or more what are called the white collar professions. Investment, manufacturing, and a lot more. What is your level of professional success, and so forth? We cover all of this in the class. So go to decodingvedicwisdom.com and you'll find that course there to get the full lowdown. But today, what we're going to talk about is the charts of in what we would today call influencers, which are very similar to what in the old days were the charts of writers. Now, think about this. A writer is someone who communicates their ideas. And if you're a great writer, a great influencer, those ideas change your society. So we're going to look at a couple of charts today. And these are some short pro formas from the class on a writer, comedian. We've got a ton of these. But today I'm going to share the pro forma for what it takes to be an influencer. So let's dive right in. And if you stay to the end, I will share at the end with you a very special invitation and message on what I've been up to the last month and why I haven't been here making videos, because I'm not an influencer, basically. I don't really have these combos to make slick videos. I turn on the camera and I just talk, right? So there's no editing, nothing. But if you want to know if your client or if you yourself have what it takes to be an influencer, let's go through this pro forma. And at the end, I've got something special for you. So one of the very classic combinations in Vedic astrology is having Jupiter and Moon angular to each other, which is called Kesari Yoga. Not Gaja Kesari, just Kesari. Also, Jupiter in one of the angles from the ascendant is Kesari Yoga. If that Jupiter is strong, then it becomes Gaja Kesari Yoga. It becomes the lion elephant yoga. That is, you become noticed. But even a Kesari Yoga is good enough. So the first, I guess you could say, point or thing to look for is, does this person have a Jupiter Moon angular or in Sambandha? Sambandha means Moon in a sign of Jupiter while aspected by Jupiter. That would qualify. Or Jupiter in a sign of Moon aspecting the Moon, or Moon Jupiter exchanging houses. That's a Sambandha. That is a connection. And again, that gives networking ability, popularity, and a public life, right? You can often see people who have Jupiter Moon Sambandha, they have high, tall foreheads. So when you're watching a movie, you see the movie star, they have a high, tall forehead. First thing I do is I want to pull the chart. Do they have Jupiter Moon angular to each other? And you often find that. There are many meanings to that, but one of them is the person will be popular or have a public network. Now, if the nodes are involved, Rahu Ketu, that takes it to another level because the nodes represent the masses in a sort of viral way. They also represent viruses. The 11th house being prominent being emphasized is also good because it is the house of social networks. The fifth house being prominent is classic for a writer, right? You want to have a prominent fifth house or second house or Venus Mercury conjunct. Typically, writers have one or more of these things. And of course, Jupiter Mercury, angular, that is in houses 1, 4, 7, 10, or influencing the ascendant. So Jupiter can be in houses 5 or 9. Mercury still has to be in houses 1, 4, 7, 10. So these are some of the combos. Now, I rolled the dice and I pulled up some charts. And the first person that came to mind was a huge influencer, but from 200 years ago. His name is Victor Hugo. Now, if you don't know who Victor Hugo is, you may know some of his works because 200 years later, they're still being performed. Les Miserables, right, is probably the most famous one. So Victor Hugo was a huge, huge success. He was a millionaire influencer because his books, his writings influenced society to such a degree that he even became a politician and was elected. But mainly he is known for his literary works. So for his day, he was a massive influencer. And when he died, the streets in Paris were lined, tens of thousands of people where the cops couldn't control. It was just full because he was a man of the people, right? So let's take a look at some of these combos. So the first one we have here, is there a sambandha between Jupiter and Moon? Well, there's no Gaja Kesari Yoga, but we have the Moon in a sign of Jupiter while being aspected by Jupiter. Look at that. So this gives a feel for what the public wants. On top of that, that combination is with the nodes, Rahu and Ketu. So now we've got the nodes involved. By the way, I just chose these writers kind of at random, but I chose Victor Hugo. He was in my mind. The rest of them sort of came just by looking at a list of the top writers in the world, including Richard Bach, whom we'll look at in a minute. Then, do we have 11th house involvement? Boy, is this 11th house massively, massively highlighted. Why? Because it participates in a parivartana yoga, an exchange of houses. Folks, one thing from our career class that we discovered is any house, not discovered, that we developed, any house that is involved in an exchange becomes a massive pointer towards the career. Now, you have to know what career each house indicates. So for that, go to Decoding Vedic Wisdom, spend a couple $100, or if you have a coupon, less than that, and get the course. I hope you won't be disappointed. But notice that the Lord of the 11th is in the 5th and the Lord of the 5th is in the 11th. And so what we have here is a massive highlighting of both the 11th and the 5th houses. So far, most, if not all, of the criteria for a social media influencer are there. 11th house, the nodes, Jupiter, Moon, 5th house. Let's see, the remaining two are Venus-Mercury combos and Jupiter-Mercury combos. So let's take a look. He does not have a Jupiter-Mercury combo, okay? They're not angular to each other or in the angles. And he does not have a Venus-Mercury combo. But the fact that he has the previous 4 or 5 is more than enough to indicate a writer. By the way, a writer is also classically indicated by the second house. Second house is the face and speech. So in fact, I am going to add that to our pro forma here. So we're going to put the second house. So second house is, second house prominent, making this up as we go. The reason the second house, this is classically the house of speech, right? But speech is the primary form of communication. And in India, where writing took a back seat. Why? Because it rains a lot. there's not a lot of paper, and whatever parchment there is will mold away in that kind of environment. So there was a much less emphasis on writing versus speaking. So, and if you think about it, writers are, or they're orators or speakers first. They're telling you a story. So the second house being prominent, and that applies to social media influencers as well, because you are speaking, right, online. So let's take a look at Victor Hugo. Well, his second house is unaspected, but the Lord of the second participates in a Mahapurusha Yoga. It's exalted second Lord. So second house is activated. So most of what we talked about here, Sir Victor Hugo has it. Now let's take a look at another chart of a modern, probably the top modern influencer, Mr. Beast. This is a rectified ascendant because we don't have his time of birth. So this is an assumed ascendant, but we can still analyze some of the combos. So do we have Jupiter, Moon, angular to each other? No, they're not. But again, we have a Jupiter, a strong Jupiter being retrograde, aspecting the Moon. Now, Moon is not in a sign of Jupiter, nor is Jupiter in a sign of the Moon, but there is still that one-sided aspect. So, okay, so far so good. Are the nodes involved? In his chart, the nodes are only involved with the sun, because we don't know his exact lagna, his ascendant. We don't know, but I think this is a reasonable ascendant. If you have a better one, let me know. I didn't spend too much time on rectifying this, but this one definitely is the chart of a multimillionaire, gajillionaire. So, okay. Well, look at this. Venus, Mercury, angular and together. And certainly an emphasized fifth house. So Mr. Beast seems to have a number of these combos. Oh, and a very strong second house as well. Second Lord in the second. Fifth Lord in a Malavya Yoga. Also participating in a Maharaja Yoga, the ninth and the 10th house. So this is certainly the chart of a massively successful person. Also a very wealthy person, because there are a number of wealth combinations here as well, which are even reinforced with the Indu Lagna. The Indu Lagna is a special ascendant specifically for determining how much money you're going to have and when you're going to have it. So I have a class on that. Again, that's on my site, decodingvedicwisdom.com. Indu Lagna class. I really enjoyed that one because they're not my techniques. They're the techniques of Hart Defoe, who taught them to us. And man, they work. So, and the Indu Lagna here is incredibly strong. All right. That's Mr. Beast, whose time we don't have. Now, someone whose time we do have is another writer, and that is Taylor Swift. Massive social media influence. So you can look at this for yourselves, guys. I'm not going to bore you here. Jupiter, Moon, angular, check. Angular to the ascendant and to each other, check. Gajakesari Yoga. Why? Because Jupiter is strong, being retrograde, and it participates in an exchange with Mercury. By the way, that's another criteria. And it is aspected by a benefic, that Mercury with which it also exchanges. Let me go. So here we go. Jupiter, Moon, angular. Yup. Nodes prominent. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Taylor. The nodes are in the second house with Venus. So on the surface, they're not prominent per se. So I won't give her this check mark, although they massively activate the second house of speech or singing, as the case may be. 11th house prominent, 11th, 5th, or 2nd. Well, let's take, and there's the Jupiter Mercury, which we discussed, by the way. Well, let's take a look. Jupiter Mercury. So is the 11th house prominent? Well, the 11th house is quite strong because there are no malefics influencing and only a powerful benefic. So that's positive for the 11th. The 5th house, its Lord is in the 12th. So Let me see what's going on here. Yeah, so there's a massive Raja Yoga here. Sun and Mars are Lord of the fifth and Lord of the ninth in the 12th house. So the 12th house here makes it not so obvious, but this is a massive Raja and wealth yoga. And the second house, is the second house emphasized? Well, it is. Saturn, its Lord, is in the first. And there is a, let's see. Yeah, there are a number of, there's there's a crazy amount of yogas here, including Bheri, Bheri, Bheri yoga, classic Bheri yoga, which is extremely rare, and as well as 40,000 others. So I would say Taylor Swift has the social media influence. Even if you don't give her an 11th house or a second house or a fifth house, the powerful Jupiter moon, the powerful Jupiter Mercury all across the 1-7, that's enough. You don't need all the combos. All you need is one. All you need is one, one, one. All you need is one. They were also amazing social influencers, the Beatles. So whether you like them or not, they were. I'm not a big fan, but so there you go. You have the chart of Taylor Swift, who has a couple of these massively strong. The rest of them are just okay, but that's good enough. So I think you get the gist. We could take a look at a couple more charts. Richard Bach is a writer who wrote a couple of very influential books when I was young. Jonathan Livingston Seagull still holds up today. And particularly the book Illusions, which is about an enlightened master in flying through, barnstorming through Middle America, which is a powerful, powerful, beautiful book. And then in the 80s, he wrote a number of other successful novels, but his primary career was as a pilot. Well, he started out at least as a pilot, which you could see with all these planets in an air sign in Ardra Nakshatra, which rules the skies, the clouds, the thunder, and so forth. But he found success as a writer. And so what do we have here? We have Jupiter and Moon angular to each other, so a Kesari yoga. In fact, we could call it Gaja Kesari because Jupiter is aspected by a benefic while also being strong, retrograde. So check mark. Are the nodes involved? Well, the nodes are involved with his 10th house of career, which we'll get to in a second. But look at this powerful Jupiter-Mercury Sambandha, both angular to each other in the houses of publication, 3 and 9. Furthermore, that Mercury, as the Lord of the Ascendant, participates in an exchange with Venus as the 9th Lord. So massive success combo. Fifth house is okay. The 5th Lord and the 11th Lord actually create a Sambandha. This is a wealth yoga, Saturn and Moon. So a number of the factors are also here. Kesari Yoga and 5th and 11th house prominent. In this case, they're prominent because they are in Sambandha. And certainly what's happening in his 10th house is not to be ignored. So that's Richard Bach. I'm going to stop here. Here we have another author, John Irving. He has the Venus Mercury conjunct. Look at this 11th house. Rahu Moon, while aspected by the 11th Lord, massive. Oh, and Kesari Yoga, Jupiter and Moon angular. Chart of another writer. 5th house, fairly afflicted too, though. So some issues there, but an incredible 2nd house, right? The 2nd Lord with Jupiter both aspecting in and no malefics. All right, so these are the charts of some writers and social media influencers. What do you think? As I mentioned in our class, we talked about some combos for writers. This is an extended pro forma for being a social influencer. What are your thoughts? Do you have any combinations that you found to be prominent in social media influencers? And if so, what are they? Leave a comment. All right. Before I leave you, I am going to share with you what I've been up to the last couple months, I would say, which is why I haven't been on YouTube making videos. As I said before, that's not my bread and butter. But when I have information for you, I love to share it. So that's why I'm here. What I've been working on is you know, we have our product Delano, which is our compatibility software based on Vedic astrology, ancient wisdom, some Western synastry techniques blended, married together. What we're doing is we're creating an AI version of a small portion of that to bring awareness to this, to a demographic that hasn't seen it before. So we're marrying compatibility with AI and the blockchain. So why are we doing this? As I said, part of the reason is introducing astrology to a new demographic. Why? What's the demographic? Well, people involved in AI and in crypto, particularly in the blockchain, are guys. Astrology, people involved in astrology are mostly women. This is a way to, again, compatibility, to bring people together in a way that is hopefully holistic. The second is to actually to emphasize the fact that it's AI will be able to give people some insights, but to have real insight, you need that personal one-on-one connection. And what we're doing with our Delano professional consultants is we're setting up a platform that will be universal. Anyone can go there and book a session with them on any one of the things that they specialize in. The point is not that I'm trying to usurp Jyotisha and, you know, bow to the gods of AI. It's the opposite. It's to show that AI is quite limited, but for a demographic that is not used to astrology, it can be a portal to bring people in. So if people get a taste of what is possible, then they may want to book a one-on-one reading with you as a consultant, as an astrologer, as a psychic, whatever it is that you do that you're really good at, that brings in the esoteric. And, you know, increasingly my goal in making these videos and doing the classes that I've been doing is to show people, to show you that Jyotisha is a viable profession. You can do astrology, make money with it, help people find their purpose, and while living your purpose. And of course, you should know if you should be an astrologer. That's the first thing to learn when you do astrology is, do I have the chart of an astrologer? And I think I've covered this a number of times before, but, you know, to be an astrologer, some of these things have to be there. Your fifth and your eighth house has to somehow be configured with Jupiter and Mercury. If you have the 10th house thrown in there, great. That means you can make a career out of it. But Jupiter, Mercury, fifth house, eighth house, that's the shortcut, the short version of it. But if you have that, then you can counsel and make a career out of it. If your second house is involved, you can make money out of it, and so forth. So check your chart first. But I think people don't realize that they can actually make a living doing this, what I believe is God's work. And in the sense that you are helping people find their purpose and bring them closer to their true selves. It was the wise men who protected the young Jesus, wasn't it? After all, they were astrologers and so forth. Not to go down that tangent, but sometimes Christians or people with a strong Christian faith or background have an objection to astrology because there is text in the Old Testament, especially on prediction. But astrology doesn't have to be all about prediction, because prediction means you know better than God, or you know as good as God. But astrology can be a way not necessarily just to predict, but to help people find, like this, their profession, help people find their mate, compatibility, right? Help people find prosperity in this life. And none of that needs to involve prediction, although prediction is certainly a part of it. So, final part is, why the blockchain? And if so, how can you be involved? Well, I'll make another video on this, why I chose to go the blockchain route versus VC, venture capital. But basically, it gives the community a chance to participate. And it is connected to a token. You will need to hold a little bit, $1 worth or $5 worth of that token in your wallet in order to access the AI, to talk to it. And what that does is it builds the community, and it helps make the AI better. So we are coming out with this in the next few weeks. If you want to be alerted to it, join my become a YouTube member. It's $2 a month for the first level, so it's not going to break the bank. I'm not going to announce it on this public channel. I will announce it privately. Okay. And what that'll be is basically an announcement on when we launch the Sizzle token, which is the token that connects to all this, and a lot more information about this AI compatibility project. So if you want to know more, become a member, and I will have updates for you increasingly coming up, because in the next we're launching in the next 2.5 weeks. So depending on when you watch this, even if it's after we've launched, I will still have updates for our members. All right. That's it out of me. If you have any questions, any thoughts, leave a comment or reach out, or better yet, become a member and reach out there, because I have more leeway to answer, more bandwidth to answer my members. And we will see you in the next one. Hari Om, everyone.